What if the person you're venting to knows the very person you're talking about? Imagine making a racist comment only to realize too late that you've just insulted someone's loved one. Like the video and subscribe for more content like this. It was a bright and breezy afternoon in Savannah, Georgia. The sun cast warm golden hues on the charming brick sidewalks, where tourists and locals alike strolled past oak trees draped in Spanish moss. At the corner of a quaint cafe, two women sat outside, their iced coffees sweating in the heat. Eleanor Whitmore adjusted the pearl necklace resting against her silk blouse, her expression twisted in distaste. "You won't believe what just happened to me at the farmer's market, Abigail," she scoffed, flipping her manicured fingers through her blonde bob. Abigail, a striking woman in her mid-30s with piercing blue eyes, lifted her cup to take a sip. "Oh," she responded mildly, her southern drawl smooth yet unreadable. Eleanor leaned in slightly, lowering her voice just enough to feign discretion but not enough to hide the venom in her tone. "I was looking at some fresh peaches, and this man had the nerve to reach for the same one as me." She scoffed, shaking her head. "A black man, mind you. Can you believe it? As if we're on the same level." Abigail remained silent, her face unreadable, but her grip on her cup tightened ever so slightly. Eleanor, oblivious, continued. "And then, get this. He smiled at me, like I was supposed to be charmed by his presence. Just disgusting. These people always act like they belong everywhere now, don't they?" She exhaled dramatically. "You'd think they'd know their place." A tense pause settled between them. The world around them carried on as if nothing had changed. Cars hummed along the street, laughter drifted from a nearby bench, and a gentle breeze ruffled the napkins on their table. But in that moment, the air between them grew thick. Abigail placed her coffee down with deliberate care. She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing as she studied the woman in front of her. "And what, exactly," she said, her voice dangerously smooth, "do you think their place is, Eleanor?" Eleanor gave a short, humorless laugh. "Oh, come on now, don't act so sensitive. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." She took another sip of her drink, missing the way Abigail's jaw tensed. "I mean, really, do you not agree?" Abigail let the question hang in the air for a second longer than was comfortable. Then, slowly, she set down her coffee. "That man you're talking about," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "is my husband." Eleanor froze mid-sip. Her eyes widened, her fingers tightening around the cup as if it might save her from the moment unraveling before her. A nervous chuckle escaped her lips. "Oh, well, Abigail, I didn't know." "No," Abigail cut her off, her tone sharper now. "You didn't." Silence. For the first time, Eleanor looked truly uncomfortable. Eleanor blinked rapidly, her face shifting from shock to an awkward attempt at recovery. "Now, Abigail, you know I didn't mean it like that," she stammered, forcing out a tense laugh. "I was just talking. I didn't know you were married to, well, to him." Abigail's lips pressed into a thin line. "Him?" she echoed, her voice unnervingly calm. Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't take it the wrong way. It's just that you never mentioned being married to a—" She stopped herself, realizing that finishing the sentence would only dig her hole deeper. Instead, she let out a nervous breath. "I didn't mean anything by it." Abigail tilted her head, her gaze now sharp as a blade. "Didn't mean what, Eleanor? Didn't mean to say my husband should know his place? Didn't mean to call him disgusting?" She leaned forward slightly. "Or didn't mean for me to find out what kind of person you really are?" Eleanor swallowed hard. Her fingers fidgeted with the napkin on her lap. I was just making small talk. You know how people exaggerate things when they're venting," she said quickly, her voice desperate for an escape. "Besides, it's not like you would ever have to deal with that kind of thing, right? I mean, she gestured vaguely. "You're not like them." Abigail inhaled sharply through her nose, her patience thinning by the second. She had heard variations of this before, the way people like Eleanor danced around their words, trying to justify the ugliness they spewed when they thought they were in safe company. She thought about her husband, Marcus, how he had spent years proving himself in spaces where people like Eleanor believed he didn't belong, how he carried himself with dignity, even when the world around him refused to see it. And now, here was this woman, spitting ignorance in broad daylight, expecting Abigail to nod along. Number not today. Abigail straightened, placing her hands flat on the table. "Eleanor," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "I want you to listen very carefully." Eleanor's breath hitched. "Oh, okay." Abigail locked eyes with her. "You sat here and ran your mouth about my husband, assuming I'd agree. You thought I'd laugh along. And now that you realize you've made a mistake, you're scrambling to take it back." She leaned in, her next words deliberate. "But you can't take it back. Because now I know exactly who you are." Eleanor's face turned an alarming shade of red. I didn't mean—" Abigail stood up, pushing her chair back with a controlled grace. "I don't care what you meant." She reached for her purse and slung it over her shoulder. "Enjoy your coffee, Eleanor." And with that, she walked away, leaving Eleanor sitting there, speechless and humiliated. 10 minutes later, Eleanor sat frozen at the cafe table, her mind still reeling. The humiliation burned hotter than the Georgia sun. How had things spiraled so fast? She needed to fix this. 2 hours later, Eleanor paced the polished hardwood floors of her living room, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. She had replayed the conversation over and over in her mind, each repetition making her stomach twist further. How could she have been so careless? She never would have said any of that if she had known Abigail's husband was black. She sighed, exasperated. "This is ridiculous," she muttered to herself. She wasn't racist, she was just opinionated. People were too sensitive these days. Still, if Abigail told anyone about their conversation, her reputation could take a hit. Savannah was a city where social circles mattered, and Eleanor lived for her place in the right ones. The charity galas, the exclusive luncheons, the well-connected friends. She had spent years curating the perfect image. She wasn't about to let one misunderstanding ruin it. Finally, she tapped Abigail's name on her phone and pressed call. The line rang once, twice, then, "Hello?" Abigail's voice was cool, unreadable. Eleanor forced a smile as if Abigail could hear it through the phone. "Abigail, dear, I just wanted to call and clear the air about earlier." She let out a light, practiced laugh. "I feel horrible about how that conversation went. Truly. I think there was just a bit of a miscommunication." Silence. Then Abigail exhaled slowly. "A miscommunication," she repeated, her voice carrying an edge of disbelief. "Yes." Eleanor clung to the word like a lifeline. "I mean, obviously, I didn't mean anything personal. You know me, Abigail. I'm not one of those people." Abigail's patience snapped. "One of what people, Eleanor?" Eleanor faltered. "Well, you know, real racists." Abigail let out a humorless chuckle. "So, let me get this straight. You think because you don't wear a hood or scream slurs, you're not racist? You sat across from me today and spat out the most vile nonsense, expecting me to agree. And now you're calling to say what? That you didn't mean it?" Eleanor's face flushed with irritation. This wasn't going the way she had hoped. "I just don't think we should let one little misunderstanding ruin a friendship," she said, her voice tight. "I mean, do you really want to make such a big deal out of this?" Abigail let out a slow, measured breath. Then, in a tone that sent a chill down Eleanor's spine, she said, "Eleanor, we were never friends." The words hit like a slap. Eleanor opened her mouth to protest, but before she could, the line went dead. She pulled the phone away from her ear, staring at the blank screen in shock. For the first time that day, a horrible realization crept into her mind. She wasn't going to be able to talk her way out of this. 2 days later, Eleanor had convinced herself that everything would blow over. Abigail wasn't the gossiping type, and besides, it wasn't like Eleanor had meant to be offensive. She told herself that Abigail was just being dramatic, that she would come to her senses. But then the invitation stopped. She first noticed it when she checked her email that morning. The save the date for the upcoming Magnolia fundraiser, an event she always attended, was strangely absent. At first, she brushed it off as a mistake. But as the day went on, she noticed more unsettling signs. Her texts to their mutual friends were met with polite but noticeably shorter responses. Calls went to voicemail, and when she stopped by her favorite boutique downtown, the owner, a woman she had known for years, greeted her with an unusual stiffness. Something was happening. By late afternoon, panic had set in. She grabbed her phone and called Julia Davenport, one of the most well-connected women in Savannah's social scene. If anyone could tell her what was going on, it was Julia. The phone rang several times before Julia finally answered. "Eleanor," she said, her voice guarded. Eleanor let out a breath of relief. "Julia, thank God. Listen, I feel like something strange is going on. Have you noticed how people have been acting toward me lately?" A pause. Then Julia sighed. "Eleanor." People know. A cold dread settled in Eleanor's stomach. "Know what?" she asked, though deep down she already knew the answer. "About what you said to Abigail." Julia's voice was firm, unyielding. "She didn't go around spreading it, if that's what you're thinking. But word got out." Eleanor's heart pounded. "That's ridiculous. I never said anything that bad. It was just a misunderstanding." Julia inhaled sharply, as if holding back frustration. "Eleanor, do you even hear yourself? You said some awful things about Abigail's husband. Right to her face. And now, people are seeing you for what you really are." Eleanor's mouth opened, then closed. She never thought it would come to this. "Look," Julia continued, her voice losing some of its edge. "I don't know what to tell you. People are distancing themselves. And honestly, I don't blame them." Eleanor felt her throat tighten. "Julia, you're not cutting me off too, are you?" There was another pause, longer this time. Then Julia's voice came, quiet but firm. "I think we should take some space." Click. The call ended. Eleanor sat there staring blankly at the screen. For the first time in her life, she was on the outside looking in. 1 week later, Eleanor had never felt so isolated. Her social world, the carefully constructed circle of influence she had spent years building, was crumbling before her eyes. The women she used to brunch with now dodged her calls. Invitations that once flooded her inbox had disappeared entirely. Even at the country club where she had always been greeted with warm smiles and polite conversation, she noticed the shift. Whispers behind manicured hands, forced pleasantries, the occasional cold glance from across the room. She had become that woman. The one people politely distanced themselves from. The one whose name carried an unspoken stain. And it was all because of her. Abigail. Eleanor sat in her sunroom, gripping a cup of tea she had barely touched. Her mind spun with a mixture of anger and desperation. She couldn't believe Abigail had done this to her. She should have kept their conversation private. But deep down, an uncomfortable truth gnawed at her. Abigail hadn't done anything. Eleanor had done this to herself. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. "Eleanor?" Her husband, Charles, stepped into the room, loosening his tie. He looked exhausted, but there was something else in his expression, something she couldn't quite place. "I just got off the phone with Tom Whitaker," he said, referring to one of the most influential men in town. "He hinted that my partnership proposal at the firm might be in jeopardy." He paused, running a hand over his face. "Eleanor, what's going on?" She felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean?" I mean that suddenly, people I've worked with for years are treating me differently," he said, his tone sharp. "I had lunch with Tom last month and we talked about my promotion like it was guaranteed. Now he's avoiding the conversation altogether." Eleanor swallowed hard. "I don't—" Charles exhaled, cutting her off. "I know this has something to do with you, so tell me, what happened?" She looked away, her grip tightening around her teacup. "It was nothing. Just a misunderstanding." Charles stared at her. "Eleanor." She hesitated, then sighed. "I may have said something to Abigail about her husband." His eyes darkened. "What exactly did you say?" Eleanor squirmed under his gaze. "It was just an offhand comment. I didn't know she was married to a black man." Charles pinched the bridge of his nose. "Jesus, Eleanor." "It's not that serious," she insisted, though her voice wavered. "People are just overreacting." Charles let out a humorless laugh. "Overreacting?" He shook his head. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You embarrassed me. My reputation, my career is now on the line because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." Eleanor's throat tightened. "I didn't mean—" "I don't care what you meant," he snapped. "This isn't just about you anymore." A heavy silence filled the room. For the first time, Eleanor realized she wasn't just losing her friends. She was losing everything. 2 weeks later, Eleanor sat alone at a small cafe on the outskirts of town, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. It wasn't her usual cafe, the one where she and the other women used to sip mimosas and trade gossip. No, she hadn't set foot in that place since the incident. She couldn't stomach the looks, the whispers. Her life had completely unraveled. The Magnolia fundraiser had come and gone without her. Her social circle had all but disappeared. Even Charles had grown distant, spending more time at work and less time at home. He was still angry, furious about what she had done. And deep down, Eleanor knew that he had every right to be. For days, she had cycled through every possible excuse to justify what she had said to Abigail. She had blamed political correctness, oversensitivity, even Abigail herself for not stopping her sooner. But no matter how she twisted the story in her mind, the truth remained the same. She had revealed exactly who she was, and now she was paying the price. 30 minutes later, Eleanor was about to leave when she spotted someone across the cafe. Abigail. She was sitting by the window, a book in one hand and a coffee in the other. Her expression was peaceful, unbothered. Eleanor hesitated. A part of her wanted to march over and demand an apology, for ruining her life, for turning everyone against her. But another part of her, a much quieter part, whispered a different truth. Abigail hadn't ruined anything. Eleanor had done that all on her own. Slowly, she got up from her seat and walked toward the door. She didn't approach Abigail. What would she even say? Instead, she stepped outside, the warm southern breeze hitting her face. For the first time in weeks, Eleanor accepted a reality she had been avoiding. Some mistakes couldn't be undone. Some bridges, once burned, were gone forever. And this was one of them. Eleanor thought she could say whatever she wanted, assuming there would be no consequences. But, in the end, her words revealed who she truly was, and the world responded. This is a powerful reminder that the things we say and believe can cost us everything. Treat others with respect, or risk losing it all. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications to be the first to know when the next story drops.